Imagine navigating a storm at sea, your vessel on the brink of sinking. You then realize the true danger isn't the raging waves, but the excessive, useless baggage you're determined to carry. This isn't just a metaphor. It mirrors how many of us live, burdened by worries, routines, and relationships that only drag us down. The ancient Stoics understood this over 2 millennia ago. They weren't superhuman. They were ordinary individuals who faced loss, setbacks, and criticism, learning to transform every obstacle into an opportunity. For them, genuine freedom lay not in commanding the world, but in quietly shedding what they couldn't alter. Consider this. How often have you found yourself striving to please everyone, accumulating emotional and physical clutter, comparing yourself to others, and succumbing to the fear of judgment? All of this acts as an unseen anchor, holding you back. And what's worse, the more you cling, the deeper you sink. Enough, it's time to embody a true Stoic, to eliminate what sabotages you, and to do it discreetly, without needing an audience or approval. After all, the only person who truly needs to acknowledge your progress is yourself. In this video, I'll guide you step by step on how to release 10 silent burdens that are eroding your tranquility and draining your vitality. Each piece of advice draws from Stoicism, a remarkably frank philosophy that advocates releasing what doesn't serve you, focusing on what truly matters, and living with ease even when everything appears to crumble. Don't fall into the trap of waiting for the perfect moment or a cosmic signal. Change begins now, and it starts in silence. Be warned, if you believe you've exhausted all options and nothing has shifted, it's because you haven't yet confronted life with the resolve of the Stoics. Only those brave enough to let go of their burdens discover authentic freedom. So, if you're finally ready to learn how to navigate life's tempests without being overwhelmed, watch this video to the end. Each piece of advice could be the turning point between being tethered to the past and attaining the lightness you've always pursued. If this video challenges you, prompts reflection, or helps you identify what to release, please remember to like, subscribe, and enable notifications. Here you'll consistently find direct, no-nonsense content for those seeking a wiser, less burdened existence. Ready to embark on this Stoic journey? Let's proceed together, because what you shed today might be your salvation tomorrow. Digital distractions that harm you. In today's world, the feeling of constant busyness and connectivity often seems unavoidable. People wake up and, before even getting out of bed, are already submerged in notifications, messages, and a continuous stream of information. This cycle repeats throughout the day, generating a pervasive digital din that infiltrates every corner of the mind. The illusion of control is potent. Many believe they can simply close an app and regain focus. But the reality is that digital chaos quietly seeps in, depleting energy, attention, and even inner peace. The result is a state of perpetual alertness, a silently escalating anxiety that makes it challenging to recognize how much one is being influenced by external stimuli. Stoicism, a philosophy enduring for centuries, offers a powerful antidote to this contemporary challenge. The Stoics taught that true freedom begins when we learn to distinguish between what is within our control and what is not. In the context of digital noise, this means taking ownership of our attention and consciously deciding what and to whom we will dedicate it. It's not about condemning technology, but using it with purpose, preventing it from dominating our time and minds. The first step is acknowledging that every accepted notification, every impulsive click is a choice, and that it is indeed possible to choose differently. For the Stoics, eliminating distractions was an exercise in virtue. Seneca himself emphasized the necessity of discarding superfluous thoughts to make room for what truly matters. Today, this translates into practices like muting notifications, regularly decluttering social media, and designating specific times for a genuine digital detox. The aim is to cultivate an environment where the mind can rest, reflect, and act with clarity, unbombarded by stimuli that offer little value to one's life. By filtering out the excess, individuals reclaim control over themselves, becoming less reactive and more capable of acting in alignment with their values. Digital silence isn't merely the absence of noise, it's the presence of conscious awareness. It is within this space that the opportunity arises to cultivate mindfulness, to be genuinely present in conversations, tasks, and leisure moments. The Stoics valued a life lived with intention, which requires the courage to decline what is trivial and affirm what is essential. By prioritizing real interactions and activities that nourish the spirit, one strengthens their resilience against the superficiality and anxiety generated by information overload. Applying Stoicism to digital noise is an invitation to responsibility. It's not about pursuing perfection or isolation, but about taking charge of small daily decisions. With consistent practice and patience, it's possible to transform one's relationship with technology, turning it into an ally rather than an adversary. The key lies in acting quietly, without needing to declare radical changes, yet experiencing, day by day, the relief of a freer, more focused mind. Thus, ancient philosophy finds its relevance in the present, demonstrating that even amidst digital chaos, serenity and purpose are attainable. The fear of others' opinions. The fear of others' opinions is a shadow that quietly accompanies most people. From childhood, we are taught to seek approval from parents, teachers, friends, and society. We grow up believing our worth depends on what others think, often sidelining our own desires, aspirations, and even our identity. How many opportunities have been lost? How many projects shelved? How many paths left untrodden simply due to the apprehension of judgment? This fear is subtle, disguised as prudence or common sense, but in reality, it's an invisible prison preventing us from living authentically. Stoicism, with its timeless wisdom, offers a powerful escape from this snare. The Stoics taught that we cannot control what people think or say about us, but we have complete control over our own actions and reactions. For them, true freedom emerges when we stop seeking external validation and start being guided by our own values. Marcus Aurelius, a prominent Stoic figure, reminded us that others' opinions are merely reflections of their beliefs and experiences, not an accurate portrayal of reality. What truly matters is the coherence between what one thinks, feels, and does. When one begins to apply Stoicism to their life, they realize that the fear of judgment loses its grip. Others' opinions become mere background noise, incapable of determining the course of personal decisions. This doesn't mean ignoring people or living in isolation, but setting clear boundaries between respect for others and the need for approval. True respect, moreover, only arises when one is faithful to oneself. Those who live to please never achieve genuine respect, only fragile and fleeting acceptance. Stoic practice teaches one to act quietly, without needing to announce changes or seek applause. Every small decision made in accordance with one's own principles is a step towards freedom. It may be challenging initially, as the fear of judgment is ancient and deeply ingrained, but with each authentic choice, courage grows. The secret lies in starting with small actions, declining unwanted commitments, embracing different tastes and opinions, or pursuing what genuinely makes us happy, even if others disapprove. Over time, one realizes that life becomes lighter. The burden of external expectations dissipates, giving way to a sense of peace and autonomy. The pursuit of approval transforms into self-trust, and the liberty to be oneself becomes the greatest gift. Stoicism demonstrates that true fulfillment is not in pleasing everyone, but in living in harmony with one's own essence. Only then is it possible to experience the tranquility of waking each day, knowing that decisions are made out of conviction, not fear. The paralysis of disorder. Toxic relationships are like silent storms. Sometimes you don't even realize how much they're draining you until you're completely exhausted. They can emerge anywhere: family, friendships, work, and are often maintained out of sheer habit or fear of appearing insensitive. It's curious that, despite feeling the burden of these connections, many remain trapped, believing that severing ties is an act of cruelty. But the truth is, by tolerating relationships that only deplete your energy, you're sacrificing your own well-being. Stoicism enters here like a light through the fog, showing that the true act of self-love is knowing when to step away, even quietly, without needing explanations or confrontations. The Stoics have always taught that we cannot control the behavior of others, only our own attitudes and boundaries. This philosophy is an invitation for each person to take charge of their own life, establishing clear and healthy limits. It's not about building impenetrable walls, but discerning who deserves to remain in your circle and who should be left behind. When you realize that a relationship is pulling you down, the best course of action is to gradually reduce contact, stop seeking approval from those who harm you, and little by little distance yourself. There's no need for drama or grand announcements. Simply stop watering the plant that no longer blooms in your garden. Stoic wisdom also emphasizes the importance of emotional detachment. This isn't about coldness, but a conscious choice of where to direct your energy. By practicing detachment, you learn not to be affected by criticism, manipulation, or unrealistic expectations. It's like constructing an inner shield. Arrows of negativity may be launched, but they no longer find their target. This doesn't mean you'll never feel hurt, but that those wounds will only have power over you if you permit them. The secret lies in not ceding your peace to those who don't deserve it. Another crucial point is self-awareness. The Stoics recommend that when identifying a toxic relationship, you look inward and ask, why do I allow this person to have so much sway over my mood? Inner dialogue is a powerful tool. It can be your armor or your vulnerability. Shifting perspective, seeing each challenge as an opportunity for growth, strengthens resilience and the courage to set boundaries. It's not about fleeing problems, but learning to face them with serenity and wisdom, consciously choosing which battles merit your energy. Stoicism reminds us that true freedom lies in knowing when not to react. Often, silence is the most potent response to provocations and unnecessary conflicts. Toxic individuals seek reactions. They want to see that their words or actions have an impact. By refusing to participate in that game, you neutralize their influence on your life. To be stoic isn't to be unfeeling, but to have control over your own emotions and to decide each day where to apply your energy. In this way, you free yourself from emotional ties and create space for genuinely healthy and enriching relationships. Toxic relationships, the invisible drain. Toxic relationships are like an imperceptible poison that spreads slowly, draining your energy, joy, and even your health without you realizing it. Often, a person becomes so accustomed to this depletion that they can no longer distinguish between lightness and burden. Curiously, in most cases, no one forces you to maintain these ties. You tolerate them, endure them, because you've been taught that breaking away is an act of cruelty, that distancing someone is synonymous with weakness or selfishness. But in reality, eliminating toxic relationships is one of the greatest acts of self-love one can practice. It's choosing yourself. It's deciding that your peace is worth more than any social obligation or fear of appearing insensitive. Stoicism enters this scenario of emotional confusion like a compass. The Stoics always taught that we should not expend energy on what is not within our control, and this applies to the people around us. You cannot control others' attitudes, words, or feelings, but you can and should decide who remains in your life. There's no need to create a spectacle or announce to the world that you're detoxing from people who bring nothing to your life. Simply act quietly, reducing contact, ceasing to seek approval from those who only cause you harm, and little by little, distancing yourself. It's like ceasing to water a plant that no longer blooms in your garden. You do it calmly, knowing it's no longer part of your path. Often, the difficulty lies in admitting that a relationship is toxic. Your body and mind send signals, that knot in your stomach upon seeing a message, the exhaustion after an encounter, the feeling that you're always giving and never receiving. There's no need to wait for a big argument or a dramatic reason to step away. The simple realization that a presence drains you is reason enough to prioritize your well-being. Stoicism teaches that true strength lies in acting with serenity, without needing justifications or resentments. It's not about revenge, but about self-respect. The process of eliminating a toxic relationship is quiet but liberating. Gradually, you realize that the energy previously depleted begins to return. Time spent in exhausting conversations can be invested in activities that genuinely nourish you or in people who help you grow. Silence here is not absence, but a conscious choice not to feed what doesn't serve you. It's an exercise in maturity, understanding that not everyone has to stay, that some people are like the wind, they pass, and that's perfectly fine. The important thing is to be honest with yourself. Maintaining toxic relationships out of fear of hurting the other person is in reality a way of hurting yourself daily. Stoicism demonstrates that prioritizing your own well-being is not selfishness, but a necessity. What doesn't add, subtracts, and there's nothing wrong with that. The space that opens up by eliminating these ties is quickly filled with lightness, clarity, and above all, the freedom to be who you truly are, without unnecessary burdens. Comparisons, the bane of self-esteem. Comparing yourself to others is a slow but relentless poison. Initially, it might seem like a way to find inspiration or measure your own progress, but it quickly becomes a trap that erodes self-esteem and steals life's joy. You begin to look around, measuring every achievement, every step, every stumble, not by your own worth, but by what you perceive in others. The problem is that this race is solitary and unfair. No one else is competing with you, yet you always feel behind, always inadequate. It's like trying to sing with someone else's voice or rowing your boat while only looking at the boats passing by, completely losing sight of your own journey. Stoicism, with its stark clarity, teaches that the only valid parameter for comparison is oneself. Marcus Aurelius and other Stoic masters already warned, life is not a speed race, but a unique journey, where everyone has their own rhythm, their own stops, and their own challenges. When you compare yourself to others, you surrender your self-worth to factors you cannot control. Others' success, appearance, popularity, material possessions. This dependency is a prison, as your satisfaction becomes reliant on something that constantly changes and fundamentally says nothing about who you truly are. The Stoic secret lies in looking inward, pursuing personal progress, and celebrating every small individual victory. Instead of getting lost in the cycle of comparison, the Stoic practices gratitude for what they have already achieved and recognizes their own virtues. They understand that each person's path is shaped by unique circumstances and that comparing one's journey to another's is as absurd as comparing the course of two different rivers. The criterion for success is not in possessions or external applause, but in living in accordance with one's own nature, developing courage, wisdom, justice, and self-control. When comparison begins to corrode self-esteem, Stoicism teaches you to question the reason for that feeling. Why do you feel you need to be like others? What exactly makes you feel inferior? Often the answer lies in unrealistic expectations or a distorted view of oneself. Practicing self-awareness is fundamental to breaking this cycle. By acknowledging your own achievements and accepting your limitations with serenity, you build a solid foundation of self-esteem, resilient to the storms of envy and dissatisfaction. To stop comparing yourself is not an act of indifference, but of liberation. It's choosing to live at your own pace, celebrate your own accomplishments, and learn from your own mistakes without being swayed by what happens around you. Stoicism shows that true joy lies in being true to yourself, finding satisfaction in the present and aligning your choices with your deepest values. When you stop seeing yourself through others' eyes, you discover the lightness of being who you truly are, and that is the greatest gift you can give yourself. Self-destructive habits. Sometimes self-destructive habits masquerade as harmless routines. That extra coffee you mindlessly drink, the phone you automatically grab upon waking, the show you watch late into the night despite knowing you'll be tired. At first they seem like minor details, but over time these choices accumulate and create cracks in your well-being. It's as if each small decision is a drop of water falling on the stone of your life, eroding your energy and peace of mind. The hardest part is realizing that these habits don't appear suddenly. They gradually take hold until they become part of your daily life, without you even noticing. Stoicism confronts these self-destructive patterns with brutal honesty. For the Stoics, change isn't about grand promises or spectacular transformations, but about small, quiet, almost imperceptible steps. Epictetus, for instance, taught that habits weaken gradually, with discipline and self-awareness. It's useless to announce to the world that you're going to change, or to expect willpower to solve everything at once. The secret lies in observing, in recognizing the exact moment your hand instinctively reaches for your phone, or when you let yourself be carried away by inertia. It's in that instant that the choice is made. Repeat the pattern or quietly do something different. The Stoic philosophy suggests that when identifying a negative habit, you shouldn't try to eliminate it drastically, but act with consistency and patience. Instead of blaming yourself for every relapse, the Stoic learns to celebrate every small victory. If today you manage to spend a morning without compulsively checking your phone, that's progress. If you resisted that unnecessary coffee or avoided a conversation you knew would be harmful, acknowledge that progress. The process is quiet, gradual, but powerful. Just as a seed grows without fanfare, each conscious choice strengthens its roots and slowly changes the landscape of your life. Another fundamental point is awareness. The Stoics believed that the key to change lies in bringing to light what we usually do automatically. When you become aware of a self-destructive habit, there's no need to despair or judge yourself. Simply pause, take a deep breath, and choose another action. It's not necessary to transform everything at once. The important thing is to act consistently, drop by drop, until the new behavior becomes natural. This approach reduces the burden of guilt and perfectionism, allowing change to occur more lightly and sustainably. True transformation doesn't need an audience. You don't need to announce to the world that you're changing or to await external recognition. Stoicism teaches that the most significant victory is the one that happens in silence within you. Every time you choose not to feed a habit that destroys you, you are strengthening your freedom and your peace. Over time, what seemed impossible becomes part of your new way of living. And when you least expect it, you'll realize that you no longer need to struggle so much. Old habits have lost their power, and you have conquered, drop by drop, a lighter and more authentic life. Negative thoughts, the silent invaders. Negative thoughts are like unwelcome visitors that quietly enter the mind and, without us realizing it, take over the space. They appear unannounced, repeating old patterns of doubt, fear, and self-criticism, until they become so familiar that they seem like a part of you. Often these thoughts settle in because you believe you have no other choice, that you are a prisoner of pessimism or anxiety. But the truth is, like an inconvenient guest, these thoughts only stay because you allow them to. Stoicism, with its relentless clarity, shows that you don't have to accept everything that crosses your mind as an absolute truth. Yes, you can change the lock on your mind and decide who enters and who stays out. Stoic philosophy teaches that it is not events themselves that disturb humans, but the judgments we make about them. Epictetus said that adversity itself is neither good nor bad. Suffering arises from how we interpret what happens to us. When a negative thought appears, the Stoic does not react impulsively or allow themselves to be overwhelmed by emotion. They observe, question, and consciously decide whether that thought deserves attention. This stance transforms the mind into a more rational and serene space, where emotion does not dictate the rules. The secret lies in responding, not reacting. Instead of feeding the cycle of negativity, the Stoic chooses inner silence, allowing the thought to dissipate without commotion. In practice, applying Stoicism against negative thoughts requires training and patience. The first step is to identify when they arise, recognize their patterns, and not be deceived by their apparent truthfulness. Ask yourself, is this really true? Am I seeing the situation as it is, or am I distorting reality? Often, negative thoughts are nothing more than an exaggerated perception or an old belief that no longer makes sense. By questioning these ideas, you begin to weaken their power. The Stoic knows that they don't have to fight every thought, but can simply stop paying attention to what brings them no benefit. Another fundamental teaching is to focus on what is within your control. Worrying about the future, dwelling on the past, or trying to control others' opinions are inexhaustible sources of negative thoughts. The Stoic directs their energy towards what they can truly change: their actions, their choices, their judgments and reactions. By accepting that not everything depends on oneself, anxiety decreases and the mind becomes lighter. Practicing gratitude for the present, as the Stoics suggest, also helps to dispel pessimism, as it shifts the focus from what is lacking to what already exists that is good in life. Finally, Stoicism teaches the importance of self-compassion. Instead of harshly judging oneself for having negative thoughts, the wise Stoic treats themselves with kindness, recognizing that making mistakes, doubting, and feeling fear are part of the human condition. The important thing is not to eliminate all negative thoughts, but to learn to live with them without losing one's peace. Every time you choose not to feed a destructive thought, you are exercising your freedom and strengthening your mind. Thus, little by little, you build a more resilient mindset, capable of facing any internal storm without sinking. The desire to control everything. The desire to control everything is a subtle trap that ensnares even the most seasoned minds. One believes that by meticulously planning every detail, by attempting to foresee all scenarios, and by striving to prevent any unforeseen event, they will guarantee security and tranquility. Yet, The more one attempts to control the world, the more one realizes that the universe is unpredictable and that the sensation of control is, in reality, an illusion. The outcome is the opposite of what's expected: anxiety, frustration, and an unending weariness. With each failed attempt to dominate the uncontrollable, the emotional backpack fills with stones, making the journey progressively heavier. It is here that Stoicism offers a path to liberation. The Stoics, since the times of Epictetus, Seneca, and Marcus Aurelius, taught that the key to a lighter life lies in distinguishing between what is within our control and what is not. This idea, known as the dichotomy of control, is a turning point. What genuinely depends on us? Our actions, our choices, our judgments and reactions. Everything else, the weather, others' attitudes, the course of events, the future, is beyond our grasp. By accepting this truth, one ceases to waste energy attempting to hold back the tide with their hands and begins to direct their efforts toward what they can truly transform. But accepting the uncontrollable does not mean being passive or abandoning one's goals. Stoicism teaches that acting responsibly and doing one's best is a virtue, but one must release attachment to the outcome. It's like a gardener who plants, waters, and cares for, but knows they cannot force the flower to bloom precisely when they desire. Maturity consists of trusting the process, acting with excellence, and then accepting whatever comes with serenity. When one learns to release the burden of absolute control, a new freedom is discovered, that of living the present with more ease and less fear of what might happen. The daily practice of this philosophy requires courage and humility. Courage to admit that it's impossible to control everything, and humility to accept that the world does not revolve around our desires. The Stoic learns to pause before reacting, to breathe deeply in the face of the unexpected, and to view every unforeseen event as an opportunity for growth. Instead of battling the current, they learn to row with the flow of life, adapting to what arises without losing their inner balance. This stance doesn't eliminate challenges, but transforms how they are faced. Ultimately, quietly eliminating the desire to control everything is an act of self-compassion. It's making space for the new, for surprises, and for what lies beyond our reach. True control, as the Stoics asserted, lies in letting go of what is not up to us and intensely focusing on what genuinely is: our attitudes, our choices, and how we respond to the world. When a person learns to trust life more and the need to dominate everything less, they discover that peace is not in control, but in the clear-eyed acceptance of what can be changed. Unrealistic expectations. The invisible burden. Unrealistic expectations are like unseen chains that shackle the mind and heart. They often emerge without one realizing, fueled by family patterns, societal pressures, and constant comparison with others. You grow up hearing that you must be the best at work, the perfect partner, the exemplary friend, and thus you fill life's backpack with goals and demands that in most cases aren't even truly yours. The problem is, the more you try to meet these demands, the further you drift from your own peace. It's like trying to fill a bottomless pit. No matter how much you strive, the feeling is that it's never enough, and all that remains is exhaustion and frustration. Stoicism, with its practical and realistic view of life, teaches that much of this suffering arises from the habit of expecting the world to operate exactly as we wish. For the Stoics, the key to tranquility lies in accepting the nature of things and people, without demanding they be different from what they are. Epictetus said that we should not create expectations about events and people, as what is beyond our control cannot be a source of anguish. When you learn to respect reality as it is, rather than as you would like it to be, you begin to experience a profound calm, even amidst turbulence. The distinction between dreaming and blindly clinging to a specific outcome is fundamental in Stoic philosophy. Having goals and future visions is important, but transforming these desires into rigid demands only increases fragility. If your happiness depends on everything unfolding exactly as you planned, any unforeseen event becomes a blow. If you can only accept people when they act according to your expectations, any slip-up becomes resentment. The Stoic, conversely, learns to navigate intelligently, accepting the current but without ceasing to guide their vessel. They understand that balance lies in acting with intention, yet without imprisoning oneself to the result. Reducing expectations doesn't mean abandoning dreams or settling for less. It means freeing oneself from the constant pressure to conform to the impossible. It's an exercise in self-awareness, looking inward, identifying which expectations truly belong to you and which have been externally imposed, and then eliminating one by one those that no longer serve you. This process is quiet and gradual, like clearing a closet full of old clothes. As you shed what doesn't make sense, you create space for what truly matters, living the present with more lightness and authenticity. Stoic practice also teaches you to change how you speak to yourself. Instead of demanding perfection, commit to doing your best with what you have now. This not only reduces anxiety, but allows you to accept error as a natural part of the journey. The fewer expectations you have, the freer you will be to experience, learn, and grow. Ultimately, letting go of expectations is not surrender, but an act of wisdom. It's choosing the freedom to be who you are, without the burden of pleasing everyone or achieving unattainable standards. Thus, life begins to flow more naturally, and inner peace ceases to be a distant dream, becoming an accessible reality. The need to always be right. There's a silent battle many wage daily, the obsession with always being right. It's as if every conversation is a battlefield where victory is only achieved when one proves their point. This impulse, often fueled by deep insecurities, transforms simple dialogues into exhausting disputes. The cost of this war is high. Each one argument adds another stone to the emotional baggage, making the journey heavier and coexistence more difficult. At its core, the desire to always have the last word is merely a desperate attempt to assert one's worth, as if being wrong were synonymous with weakness. But at the end of the day, what is gained? An invisible medal that brings no peace, only exhaustion and isolation. Stoicism, with its ancient wisdom, offers an elegant escape from this vicious cycle. The Stoics taught that we cannot control others' perceptions of us, and that insisting on convincing everyone is an endless source of frustration. Marcus Aurelius, for instance, argued that true wisdom lies in not becoming like those who challenge us. Instead of retaliating, the Stoic chooses to respond calmly, using reason as an invisible shield. When the urge to correct or impose one's opinion arises, they breathe deeply and practice silence, not out of resignation, but out of liberation. By freeing oneself from the need to win every battle, one discovers the relief of no longer carrying the weight of pride. Learning to truly listen is an exercise in humility. It's not about listening merely to rebut, but genuinely trying to understand the other person, even when in disagreement. This stance creates space for dialogue and mutual growth. The Stoic knows that not all conversations need a winner. Sometimes the greatest sign of strength is knowing when not to fight, when to let the other person have the last word without it affecting one's self-esteem. Silence in those moments is more powerful than any argument. It preserves inner peace and demonstrates a confidence that doesn't depend on others' approval. Stoic philosophy also teaches the importance of separating what is within our control from what is not. Our reactions, thoughts, and choices are our responsibility. Others' opinions and attitudes do not belong to us. When someone tries to impose their truth, the Stoic does not get swept away by the emotional storm. They observe, remain calm, and choose not to expend energy on what they cannot change. This mental clarity allows one to deal with conflicts more productively and less exhaustively. Reason becomes a reliable guide, preventing us from being carried away by impulses or vanity. Ultimately, the need to always be right is just another prison that can be opened with the key of self-awareness. Freeing oneself from this burden is an act of courage and wisdom. It's not necessary to know everything or to have an opinion on every topic. It's okay to be wrong. It's okay to listen more than speak. By abandoning the obsession with winning arguments, one gains something far more valuable: peace of mind. And as the Stoics taught, that peace is the true reward for those who learn to live according to their principles, without getting lost in the futile battles of the ego. Reaching this point already shows you are ready for a quiet, yet powerful transformation. Life, as the Stoics taught, isn't about collecting trophies or proving something to the world, but about shedding what weighs you down, eliminating what sabotages you, and ultimately, walking with lightness. You don't need an audience, drama, or justifications. Simply decide in silence that your peace is worth more than any expectation, comparison, or toxic relationship. Every small choice today, is a step towards a more authentic, lighter, and above all, more uniquely your own life. Remember, true strength lies in acting without fanfare, in cutting ties with what no longer serves you without looking back. It's not easy, but it is liberating. When you stop comparing yourself, seeking approval, trying to control the uncontrollable, and clinging to the past, you discover that life is much more than mere survival. It's about truly living with courage and serenity. The Stoics already knew this. Freedom begins when you stop carrying what doesn't belong to you. Now I want to challenge you to take the next step. Today, choose one of these chains and quietly release it. You don't need to tell anyone. Just feel the relief of being true to yourself. And if this video has helped you, please like, subscribe, and enable notifications. Here you'll always find paths to a lighter and wiser life. Share in the comments which of these changes you're going to start now. And remember, those who shed what burdens them discover what true freedom is. See you in the next video.